Miami Grand Prix has been complete, so let's go through the results and a review of the 2024 Miami Grand Prix.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel.
Alright guys, what's happening? My name is Grim. Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, don't forget to subscribe down below, put the notification bell on as well, because I don't tell you guys to do that too often, and also like the video. Now, Miami Grand Prix has been complete, and let's go through the results and, my opinion of what the heck went on over the course of the weekend for the Miami Grand Prix. Second sprint weekend in a row after the Chinese Grand Prix. We headed to Miami with obviously another sprint weekend. In practice one, it was of course business as usual for Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing. Obviously, Adrian Newey confirmed that he was leaving Red Bull Racing during the week, which sparks a lot of questions to Aston Martin and multiple other teams such as Ferrari, McLaren, all about Adrian Newey's potential move to their team. Now, the most likely candidate everyone's saying in the paddock is Ferrari, but at the moment, I guess he's just focused on this year's car and Max Verstappen winning a fourth world championship. Now, Verstappen with a 128.595 in practice one. Second was Oscar Piastri, and third was Carlos Sainz. They're only a tenth slower than Max Verstappen throughout practice. Mercedes, George Russell was good enough to put his Mercedes in P4, and I thought actually Mercedes had some pace with Russell 4th, Hamilton in 7th. Perez, of course, down in P6, and Lance Stroll showing some pace for the Aston Martin. It wasn't all smooth sailing during practice because Charles Leclerc spun the car on his outlap and pretty much stopped the car, got out, and pretty much caused the red flag. Couldn't get it out of the section where he did spin and lost valuable time in that practice session. We then went, of course, to sprint qualifying, and Max Verstappen dominated once again, getting pole position. No one expected any different. But this time, Ferrari Charles Leclerc was pretty much in range of getting pole position against Max Verstappen. Was just off him a little bit, but Charles showing some mega pace in that Ferrari, considering how quick that Red Bull was, and a really good comeback for Charles. Considering he had the spin, it was a very good result for Charles. Sergio Perez put his Red Bull up into P3. I still think that's because of the car, in the sense of that Red Bull being very, very quick. And honestly, during that sprint race, the Red Bull was super quick on the straight line, especially when that DRS was open. Daniel Ricciardo with an excellent result with the RB, putting it in P4. He was super happy out qualifying Yuki Tsunoda. He sort of needed that result after the situation with Lance Stroll in China, getting rear-ended by him during the safety car period. So a really good result for Daniel Ricciardo. Carlos Sainz in P5. And then the McLaren pair of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. So Oscar Piastri actually out-qualified Lando, only having half of the upgrades during the weekend in P6. And P9 was Lando Norris. Lando had no pace at all after topping Q2. We all thought actually McLaren could be in this fight. They chucked on the soft compounded tyre and they were nowhere to be seen. Nico Hülkenberg sneaking his Haas in the top 10 once again, doing an excellent job for Haas during qualifying, and he also done a really good job during the sprint. Fernando Alonso in P8, getting his Aston Martin in the top 10. It was not good for Mercedes, 11th and 12th, with George Russell out qualifying Lewis Hamilton. Ocon in P13 seems like a standard for Ocon to be in Q2 these days, even though that car isn't the greatest car of them all. Yuki Tsunoda down in 15th, Magnussen 14th. And at the back, we had Alex Albon and Logan Sargent at the rear end of the grid. Zhou actually beat Valtteri Bottas, which was interesting to see that during the sprint qualifying. And then, of course, we went to the sprint race. Wasn't a bad start for the sprint. Max Verstappen obviously came off the line a little bit better than Charles, and then obviously had the lead from lap 1, and pretty much what everyone expected, Max Verstappen absolutely dominate. He was 3.371 seconds ahead of Max by the end of the sprint race. Max was 3.371 seconds ahead of Charles at the end of the sprint race, and Charles finishing in a decent P2 for Ferrari. I think Charles is a little bit back on form compared to his teammate Carlos Sainz. I actually thought Carlos might actually outperform Charles, but yeah, Charles is doing really, really well. Was doing really, really well so far during the weekend. Sergio Perez in a decent P3, overtaking Daniel Ricciardo, who actually jumped him at the start. Perez's defense, honestly, is just it's it's not that great, man. Like, if you look at him into turn one, he was running wide, and then obviously because of that car, how quick it is, he was able to take Daniel Ricciardo. But there was a mega drive from Daniel Ricciardo to finish 4th ahead of Carlos Sainz, keeping him behind him the whole Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri, a pretty quiet race, P6. Nico Hülkenberg, P7, getting 2 points. And Yuki Tsunoda P8 after Kevin Magnussen got a penalty. Magnussen and Hamilton fighting and pretty much entertaining the crowd throughout most of the sprint. Very hard defending from Kevin Magnussen, I will say. Very tough. Martin Brundle was saying it's actually, he didn't mind the defending. It was tough, but he did get multiple seconds of penalties and yeah, dropped all the way down. He said he did it for Nico Hülkenberg to get the team points. So a real team play, I guess, from Magnussen. And it worked because 2 points for Haas, 2 points for Hülkenberg. Obviously, Hülkenberg's leaving, so Magnussen's probably trying to eye out a continuation contract with Haas for next season. But yeah, Hülkenberg gained those points. So Yuki got the last point after all that. And Pierre Gasly just outside the points in P9, actually beating his teammate Esteban Ocon, who actually hit Charles Leclerc before the sprint race started. Rear wing was gone. And yeah, pretty much caused a headache for Ferrari and Charles Leclerc just before the sprint started. Logan Sargent doing a really good job getting the top 10, but unfortunately you don't get points all the way down to P10 during the sprint. Joe actually beating Bottas once again during the sprint. Bottas nowhere to be seen. Alonso dropped all the way down to P17, and Lance Stroll did not finish as well because obviously at the beginning of the race, Lewis Hamilton came storming in. Now, people had their own opinions. I don't know how Martin Brundle was sort of blaming Stroll on the outside. I think it was a turn one incident. Okay, now if I had to pick anyone to blame, I would blame maybe Lewis Hamilton, but he did see a gap and he went for it. So there's not really much to blame with Lewis, but you know, it's a turn one incident in my opinion. 4 cars into one didn't really go. Lando Norris obviously getting hit and then retiring the car, getting beaten technically by Oscar Piastri once again, with only having half the upgrades. Like I said before, McLaren giving all the upgrades to Lando and only half to Oscar during this Grand Prix. So yeah, to me, turn one incident, nothing more to it. And I think that we need to just have continuously good racing. The gloves are off. Max Verstappen won the sprint race, and then obviously we went to qualifying and Max Verstappen dominated once again. It's just Max. And you know, P1, nothing more to it. Standard. Charles Leclerc P2. I actually thought Ferrari had a chance to challenge Verstappen. Wasn't going to happen though. But Charles actually out qualifying his teammate with Carlos Sainz P3, Sergio Perez P4. Perez struggling once again. Lando Norris coming back after crashing out of the sprint, P5, P6, Oscar Piastri getting beaten by Lando. George Russell did an alright job to get it into P7, and P8 was Lewis Hamilton. Nico Hülkenberg and Yuki Tsunoda impressed by getting their both cars in the top 10. Yuki outperforming Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo's like, I don't know, he had that really mega qualifying in the sprint, a really mega sprint, and then didn't even make it out of Q1, finishing P18. A real big disappointment from Daniel Ricciardo. The highs back down to the lows. Magnussen, P19, nowhere to be seen as well. Zhou, last of them all, so couldn't actually beat Valtteri Bottas. Gasly beating Ocon. I actually thought Ocon would actually beat Gasly during this weekend. I had a real good feeling about Ocon to make top 10 and get points. Don't know if it's going to happen, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe there might be a few retirements. And of course came the Miami Grand Prix race. Congratulations to Lando Norris getting his first ever Grand Prix win. He actually beat Max by 7.6 seconds at the end of the Grand Prix, which is pretty impressive considering that McLaren is actually looking pretty quick at the moment. Even Piastri had a really good pace. Obviously, it was unfortunate to finish at the bottom by the end of the Grand Prix. Piastri ended up finishing in 13th, actually ahead of Zhou after all that. Daniel Ricciardo in low 15, 16th Valtteri Bottas. Lance Stroll P17, a really bad day for Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso did make the top 10 though, with the P9. He was very happy. And Esteban Ocon, which I predicted in my prediction video, finished P10, getting a single point for himself and Alpine. So I did have a guess that Ocon would get a point at the beginning of the weekend. And I was right, purely on vibes, and I absolutely got it. So that was really good. Nico Hülkenberg disappointed to be kicked out of the points just in P11. And Kevin Magnussen all weekend defending absolutely crazy. But you know, obviously optimizing that and winning and helping his teammate Nico Hülkenberg get points in the sprint. Obviously wasn't lucky enough to get points for the race. George Russell struggled getting P8. Yuki Tsunoda, an impressive P7. The safety car really helping him. Of course, Carlos Sainz, P5. Lewis Hamilton, P6. He actually had a lot of pace at the end of the Grand Prix. With about 15 laps to go, he actually increased the pace, which was good for, I guess, Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton. It was encouraging. Sergio Perez, nowhere to be seen compared to Max Verstappen. Of course, Max was leading the Grand Prix the whole time until that safety car period, which really helped Lando Norris, obviously. And at one stage, Charles was actually trying to overtake Max after that safety car. Max couldn't really heat up his tyres Once he got going, he was trying to chase Lando, but just could not catch the McLaren driver, Lando Norris. I actually thought it was going to be Lando, Max, and Oscar Piastri on the podium. But we all know what happened to Oscar. So now I think we're going to see angry Super Max come back next round, absolutely dominate the Grand Prix once again. But you know what? If the safety car didn't happen, Max would have won that Miami Grand Prix. But I'm glad for Lando Norris. Happy for Lando Norris. He deserved that first maiden win ever since that Russia Grand Prix after the rain came down and he stayed out and Lewis Hamilton beat him. He really did deserve that win, Lando, and finally got a race win under his belt. Lewis Hamilton congratulated him. He was full clapping out of the car. It was really, really nice to see Hamilton do that. And pretty much the whole grid congratulated Lando Norris. He really, really deserved to, win that Miami Grand Prix and finally have a win under his belt. So congratulations to Lando Norris and McLaren. I feel like now that the weight's lifted off Lando Norris' shoulders, he's going to be more and more competitive every weekend. Watch Lando go to another level now that he's won a Grand Prix. Next up, can Oscar Piastri win? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Then we have McLaren battling Red Bull weekends in, weekends out. Listen, at the end of the day, when Ferrari won the next weekend, they were nowhere to be seen. So will McLaren be anywhere to be seen next time out? Monte Carlo. I do feel like Max is going to dominate again in Monaco. The Red Bull is always very quick. Or can we see a Ferrari, Charles Leclerc get pole position? I don't know. It's going to be a good battle between McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull going into the Monaco Grand Prix. Then, of course, we have the Spanish Grand Prix after that. So we have a few interesting races coming up for McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull. Aston Martin and Mercedes have some gaining to do. Let's see what happens. Where's Adrian Newey going to end up? We have a full week of no racing, which means we're probably going to get some crazy news in the Formula One community. Next round is Monaco. Congratulations to Lando Norris. Guys, like, comment, subscribe on this video. Make sure you do all that. And I'll see you guys in my next Formula One video. Thank you.